Everybody wants to rule the AFC South. Shout out Tears for Fears. So we're talking about tears, but not tears. Tears. Where do the Texans stack up versus the rest of the AFC South at each of the positions? And within those positions, a little discussion about which tiers might exist within that position. Plus, I got a food review Friday for you on the newest Butterfinger flavor. That's the first time in 10 years Butterfinger has had a new flavor. That'll be at the end. Tier conversation for you. Let's begin on offense, and let's take a look at the quarterbacks and the running backs first, and we'll go through the rest of the offense here. And I use Tier Maker to create this. You can go into the AFC South positional rankings and make it yourself. I'll leave a link in the description down below. But quarterback, you knew CJ Stroud was going to be at the top of this one. I mean, you had to know CJ Stroud was going to be ahead of what Trevor Lawrence, Cam Ward, and whatever the hell the Colts are doing at quarterback. So CJ Stroud is not only the top quarterback, but I would go ahead and put him in a tier slightly above Trevor Lawrence. Questions with lots of potential and has showcased lots of potential is where I would kind of put CJ Stroud. I don't know that Trevor Lawrence has ever really showcased that incredible potential that a lot of us believed he was going to have coming in. So I'd put him slightly below CJ Stroud. And then the what in the hell are you going to get tier out of the Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts. The Titans, what are you going to get? Hey, maybe you're going to get Jaden Daniels. Maybe you're going to get CJ Stroud from Cam Ward. But I would feel like the more that happens with Stroud and Cam and Jaden Daniels, the less likely it is that Cam Ward is going to replicate it, and you're going to have a super impressive rookie quarterback for the third year in a row. And then the Colts, my goodness, Anthony Richardson, he's so bad. Daniel Jones is challenging for his job. Daniel Jones, he's so bad. That's all I had to offer on Daniel Jones. So I feel like I got this one right, and it's a pretty good argument. The unknown of Cam Ward puts him ahead of the known of Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. I like Shane Steichen. I just don't believe he can make chicken salad out of chicken boo-boo at his quarterback spot. The running back situation, Jonathan Taylor, clearly the top guy and in a league all by himself when it comes to running back. Slightly below him is, of course, Joe Mixon. Mixon has had a really good run in the NFL. He just does not possess the top-end talent that Jonathan Taylor does. He is a very good running back. Jonathan Taylor is a great running back. There is a difference there. The Texans check in at number 2. They're the conglomerate of running backs that the Tennessee Titans have in Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears. I actually like them more than Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. Or is it Trevor Etienne? It's Travis Etienne. Trevor's the one that just got drafted. Etienne on the Jaguars and Bigsby. I like Pollard and Tyjae Spears more than those guys. And I feel like with just a little bit better offensive line play and a little bit better quarterback play, they could get a little bit more out of the rushing attack there in Tennessee. I don't like Etienne. I feel like he is overdrafted in the first round a few years ago. He hasn't paid off and lived up to that. And Tank Bigsby's fine. I probably, for most people, have the Titans and the Jaguars switched on this one. But for me, I like the duo in Tennessee, that Tennessee two-step that they've got versus what Jacksonville has for their duo. Let's go over to the offensive line here. And man, this offensive line conversation, I really sat here and thought about this longer than I should have as I was kind of going through this and kind of thinking about it. And I'm just like, I'm trying to find the best of the worst here. The Titans' offensive line situation, it's a disaster. They had a first-round pick on the O-line last year. They have to move to the other side of the line. They spent $1 gazillion on a guy none of us have ever heard of to play tackle. Their interior is very bleh. The Texans situation, not much better. Questions at tackle, questions on the interior. At least Cam Robinson at left tackle. Somebody's heard of him playing left tackle. Who's heard of the guy the Titans have at left tackle? And the Texans changing a lot of what they did with their offensive line approach. The Titans have the same head coach, the same scheme, the same offensive line coach. Jacksonville, not much better than the Texans. I mean, I could have flipped the Texans and the Jaguars. I could have flipped the Jaguars and the Titans. I could have moved those 3 teams around a ton when it comes to the offensive line. But Jacksonville, they said when the offseason got started, they wanted to kind of change things up on the offensive line, and then they didn't. So, ugh. And then the Colts, not much better than this, but the Colts have one of the best guards in football in Quentin Nelson. They're bringing back their tackles. They have to answer a couple of questions when it comes to their offensive line. Who's going to be the starting right guard? Who's going to be their center? But they've got the best offensive linemen of any of the teams. So I put them here, but they're all kind of in a bad tier of play from the offensive lineman. Let's move to wide receiver here in the middle. I put the Texans at the top, despite the fact that I really like what the Colts have built in their wide receiver room. Now, I like the Colts wide receiver room because they've got all the elements that you'd want. You've got a possession receiver in Michael Pittman. You got the deep threat in Alec Pierce. You've got the shifty slot player that can make plays in Josh Downs. They've got all that, and a lot of good it's done them having the complementing wide receivers over the past couple of seasons. For the Texans, Nico Collins is fantastic. You add Christian Kirk to the equation, a healthy Christian Kirk should be a useful tool. Then they've got depth, which some of these teams don't have. They've got depth with the rookies out of Iowa State, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll. I put the Texans ahead of the Colts, probably a lot closer than you would think. And I would tell you that Jacksonville's pretty damn close as well because Brian Thomas Jr. is awesome. I believe Brian Thomas Jr. last year was the best receiver in the AFC South. Even a healthy Nico Collins, I thought BTJ was better. And you add Travis Hunter to that equation, the Jaguars are going to play him primarily as a wide receiver. That's a really good duo. But after that, no good. Nothing to write home about in Jacksonville. So by only virtue of having two guys, the other teams having three or four, if you count the Texans, I put the Jaguars third and the Tennessee Titans, well, they're going to be in fourth a lot here on this. In the tight end room, I put the Colts 1 on this because I like Tyler Warren. They brought back Mo Alley-Cox, and I just feel like Tyler Warren has a chance to be a tight end that you don't have to take off the field. You can do everything with him. Not many other tight ends in the AFC South have that ability. You're going to have to take some of those guys off the field for certain reasons. Tyler Warren, you can just leave him out there. He was one of my favorite players in the draft. The Colts, luckily for them, didn't have to move around. He fell right in their lap. They benefited greatly from that, and the Colts have one of the best tight ends in all of football, despite the fact that he is a rookie, because you don't have to take him off the field. And then Mo Alley-Cox, he's had a moment or two. The Texans tight end situation. Look, Dalton Schultz was disappointing last year. Dalton Schultz would be the best tight end on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Dalton Schultz would be the best tight end on the Tennessee Titans. So Dalton Schultz, despite the disappointment last year, still a serviceable player. He's not going to live up to his contract, but he can still be a serviceable player. If Cade Stover's blocking gets better, the Texans have two tight ends they can rely on. If Brevin Jordan bounces back from his injury, maybe they have three tight ends they can rely on. So options and opportunity for the Texans have them checking in at number 2. Jaguars, I like Britton Strange. They lost Evan Ingram. That's fine. And then the Tennessee Titans, just not that impressive. Okay, which you could say that for a lot of Tennessee Titans situations. Let's talk about cornerback. Well, you knew the Houston Texans were going to lead when it came to the cornerback conversation. Derek Stingley, Kamari Lassiter. Derek Stingley, one of the best cornerbacks in all of football. All-Pro, could have been in the conversation for best cornerback in all of football last year. Kamari Lassiter was one of the best rookie cornerbacks in all of football last year. Come on. Now, the Tennessee Titans ahead of the Colts, that's probably the conversation piece. L'Jarius Sneed, if healthy, still a good cornerback. That's a cornerback you can rely on. The Jaguars, I like their duo outside. Plus, they've got a nickel cornerback that can cover as well. So they check in at 2. But the Texans clearly ahead of these teams when it comes to the cornerback situation. At safety, checking through the safety situation, I'm checking the Texans at the front again here. The Colts right behind them, spend a little money to add to the safety equation. The Jaguars have seen guys move out. They're going to play some younger guys back there. The Titans are bad at the position. But the Texans with Kalen Bullock, one of the best young safeties last year. C.J. Gardner-Johnson getting added to the crew for now. Jimmy Ward as a backup safety. I mean, come on. Jimmy Ward could start for the other 3 teams right away. Now, would he stay healthy? It's a conversation for another time. The Texans clearly tops in safeties, and we don't have to have a big conversation about that. D-line was actually probably one of the toughest conversations that I had to have with myself in putting these rankings together. Not about number one, because when you've got two dominant edge rushers like the Houston Texans, when you've got two potential all-pros like the Houston Texans have, when you have one of the most dominant young players and one of the most paid-for, paid-off free agents in recent memory at the defensive end position, you're going to finish number one. And D'Amico Ryans can coach him up at the defensive tackle spot. They have at least got options at defensive tackle. I put the Jaguars slightly ahead of the Tennessee Titans, just because getting after the quarterback is what the defensive line is really about. I know defensive tackles are important, but getting after the QB is important. The Texans can do it. The Jaguars can do it a little bit better than the Titans can, because they've got Trevon Walker. They've got Josh Allen Hines, or is it Josh Hines Allen? I never remember since he changed his name. But they've got guys that can get off the edge and get to the quarterback. Their interior is not super impressive, but they can get to the quarterback, and that has them slightly ahead of the Tennessee Titans. I love the Titans defensive tackle duo. T'Vondre Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons. That might be one of the best defensive tackle duos in all of football. Simmons is one of the most underrated players on defense in the entire National Football League. And T'Vondre Sweat showed last year he's got a lot more to his game than people think. And despite the fact that the Colts have DeForest Buckner and they have Latu, a first-round pick, a defensive end from last year, they fall behind everybody else. Just not been as impressive as it was supposed to be in Indianapolis. At the linebacker spot, wrapping up here on defense, the Texans, again, checking in at the top. Just ask Trevor Lawrence about Azeez Al-Shire. But I do like Devin Lloyd a little bit for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I like the potential of their linebacker room just a tiny bit more than the Colts, who actually had a really good linebacker room coming in and then disappointed last year. Zaire Franklin is probably one of the best players at this position in the entire division. So if you wanted to flip-flop the Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars, you certainly could. And the Tennessee Titans, they're the Titans. And now we finish up here with special teams. You can see it there. Special teams is going to finish up for us. And the Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans both made more than 90% of their field goals last year. The Houston Texans had too many field goal misses last year. Their special teams coverage stuff wasn't as good as it usually is. And the kickoff is still very strange. Now, the Texans have a chance to easily blow past these two. They could get some useful returns out of Dameon Pierce. Maybe Jalen Knoll is a special teams guy that could help them out. And Braxton Berrios is in for special teams help. But the Jaguars and the Titans both had some really impressive special teams moments over the course of the season. And their field goal kicking, their numbers were just better than the Texans. So they finished ahead. And the Colts swapped out their kicker. And I think their punter's okay. But I'm not going to sit here and go, in depth about a punter for the Colts. So that's where we are. Let's take a look at the whole situation. The Texans checking in as the top team at quarterback, wide receiver, cornerback, safety, defensive line, linebacker. So 6 positions for the Texans as the top team. The Colts check in at 3 positions as the top. The Jaguars frequently in the 2 spot, but only winning special teams. And the Tennessee Titans stink to high heaven. So there you go with that. You can go to Tier Maker and make your own if you would like. It is a nice, fun exercise and really gets you thinking about the AFC South. Now, as I say all that about the division, I'd like to tell you, winning the division, it is the very lowest of low goals this year for the Texans. Winning the division should be expected. It's not going to be easy, okay? It's going to be more difficult because the Jaguars got better this year. I like their coach. I would think a healthy Trevor Lawrence is going to be a guy that you at least need to account for a little bit. The Tennessee Titans got better, and the Indianapolis Colts got better, though I don't love their quarterback situation. But if Daniel Jones plays better than Anthony Richardson, the Colts are still a little bit of a dangerous team. So ultimately, this is a look at the division and the Texans. When you look at the tier list and you look at these positions and how much better when they do finish first they are than some of the other teams, It looks like the AFC South should be a nice little cakewalk. It won't be a cakewalk. And again, as CJ Gardner-Johnson said when he was at his introductory press conference, the Texans didn't bring him in to win the division. The Texans brought him in to win the big one, but winning the division and winning more games than you did last year and getting home field advantage, those are all steps to going to the AFC Championship game, which this organization has never done, and then ultimately going to the Super Bowl as well. So division, it's on the goal list. It's on the bottom of the goal list. You check it off, and then you just keep going up. What say you? Did I get any of these position rankings wrong when it comes to the AFC South? Let me know in the comment section down below. On your way down there, throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out my friend Landry Locker in the locker room, and then our weekday collab, the SNL Texans Talk channel. That link's in the description down below as well. Appreciate you watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait till we talk Texans again soon. If you want to get the food review, hang around because it's coming your way right now. Food review time. Food review time. The first new flavor of Butterfinger in 10 years, the Butterfinger Salted Caramel. New packaging. If you go to Walmart to find this, it's in the candy aisle. It's not up front near the regular Butterfinger. So we'll see what we can do here. It looks drastically different than your typical Butterfinger. So I wonder if it's just the salted caramel outside, if that's what it brings to the table. You definitely smell the caramel here with the salted caramel Butterfinger. Let's see what we got here. Okay, right away, it's a bit more dense than your typical Butterfinger. I don't know if that's just this particular bite or this particular Butterfinger that I had. It does not have an intense caramel flavor, but you certainly miss the chocolate from your typical Butterfinger. Let me get another bite here. Okay, you get the caramel flavor up front, and then you get that little salty bit on the back end of the bite. It's a good candy bar, and it definitely is a Butterfinger, obviously with the inside. You can see there your typical Butterfinger inside, but that's really the only difference is the outside coating is this different. And the interior doesn't taste different at all. And if you like caramel, you're going to like this. If you like chocolate in your candy bars, you're probably going to like the regular Butterfinger a little bit. I'm going to get one more bite just to see here. It's a nice change up. It's a nice change up. It's not my favorite candy bar that I've ever had, but it's not a bad candy bar. But it's a nice change up. It does not compare to a regular Butterfinger. If you want a regular Butterfinger, you're not going to be as happy with this as a regular Butterfinger. If you like salted caramel, you're going to enjoy this bar. With it being a very niche flavor compared to your typical regular everyday candy bar, I got to add that into the grade. The scale is 1 to 11, 11 being the greatest of all time, 1 being couldn't even make the training camp invite list. Okay, let's go here. 7.9. 7.9. It is a good one-off candy bar. You'll enjoy it the one time that you eat it. I can't imagine that you're going to want to buy a bunch of those after you try it once. It's here for a couple of months. I think at the end of June is when it goes away. But a nice, unique twist on the Butterfinger. But I miss that chocolate. If they had a half chocolate, half caramel Butterfinger, or a chocolate Butterfinger with a caramel swirl or drizzle in there, maybe we'd have had a conversation about a higher score, but we'll go 7.9 here for the salted caramel Butterfinger. 10 years in the making for the Butterfinger folks. And, maybe go back to the drawing board.